So we are going to be looking at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are on episode 41, aka World War II. In the last episode, I did not explain how World War II would start because World War II is going to be coming up in a very kind of chaotic way. Anyways, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into World War II of this series. Now, before we do World War II, we have to do our daily Sri Lanka update. Very simple daily Britain update. Daily Sri Lanka update. It's pretty much just this pink country down here annexes all of this green one right here. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the start of World War II because, well, you guys don't know how it's going to start yet. Since there's so many alliances on the world and in the world, and there's like a lot of people inside the alliances, you guys may think that it would start with these guys, and it kind of will. I'll say kind of because you'll see. If you remember, a couple episodes ago, this Eastern Korea, if you remember this country back in the old days of this series, broke away from this Korean country. Well, it turns out these two actually had a peace deal going where they would split Korea and everything would just be okay going forward. But there are some people inside of this country who don't want peace within Korea and they want to own it all under one country. But what happens is fascists from both sides of these countries who met up kind of secretly are going to rise up and start taking over parts of, well, mainly Eastern Korea, because that was the main target, as they zip up through these areas very quickly. These fascists are going to try to work and take out all of Korea, but as they get to these points, they're going to get slowed down by both West Korea and East Korean forces. They are going to split both of these countries in half, but the war over here is going to go into kind of a stalemate like this for most of the war. But going away from this, because in history books, this is technically what they consider the start of World War II. What other people consider the start of World War II is over here inside of Africa. Tensions over here are very high because, well, they're just like, they're colonizers. They're not getting along right now. And there's going to be a little bit of an accident that happens, and that is ultimately going to start World War III. Brown team troops who are doing a survey of the border accidentally cross over into quite a bit of land over here. Some other people over here also cross into some land. And when they realize this mistake, they leave and, well, yeah, they just leave. And this actually goes pretty unmarked for the most part. But the thing is, they will always find out. Indonesia, when also doing the same survey, like along the border, they find tracks inside of some mud. And when they look at this, they find a accessory of someone who was on the brown team, and it was a hat that fell off of their head. They never went and picked that hat up, and that hat read the words Dutch military. And Indonesia thinks that they sent spies into their territory. So what's going to happen is Indonesia is going to send this stuff over to their capital. Their capital is then going to take this stuff over to the leader of the alliance, Poland. Poland sees this, and they too think that the brown team was spying on Indonesian land. So they're going to go ahead and invade into mainly the Dutch. And it's going to be a big surprise attack. The Polish army, a lot of it, was stationed here overnight. Around 50,000 troops were stationed here overnight without the Dutch team even knowing. And the Dutch, all the stars were not prepared for this at all. They did not even think that they had an idea that the war couldn't even happen. But that has been proven wrong, as a big encirclement down over here has been made, cutting off a lot of these towns over here. And I bring to you World War II inside of this universe. All of the 6 Star Alliance members knew about this strategy that they were going to be doing, and so they're all preparing their borders for an attack. Mainly, the one that strikes out first is the Greek attack on Anatolia. Greek troops land inside of Constantinople or Istanbul, and they begin a big spread out. It's not going to go as good as the Polish front because Anatolia does not like Greece, and, well, they did have some troops over here to protect against the border. Over in the Yugoslavian front, we see the Greek troops also start pouring over into the front line over here because, well, they also put troops over here. And Yugoslavia was not prepared. They kind of didn't even know that Greece was in an alliance and would jump them. That just shows how oblivious Yugoslavia and the Star Alliance was to this attack. Poland is also going to start an invasion into Italy, the part of Slovenia, and this is actually going to get pretty far in there. Africa is going to see a lot of fighting, as this is one of the only regions where the Dutch and, well, the Star Team is going to actually benefit in the first few months of the war because, well, they actually had troops stationed down here inside of Africa because, well, they always knew that this was a possibility. They just didn't think it was actually going to happen. Regardless, they still are going to get invaded into by Indonesia, and Indonesia actually takes over this whole lake over here. They focus a lot of troops on taking that lake. They also send troops into this front over here inside of the Central Asian Union's colony over here to retake the land that was over here. Well, not retake, but gain the land that was over here. And this front is going to go very well because turmoil and a lot unrest inside of the Central Asian Union is taking place right now. The Dutch are also going to actually benefit in the Indian front, and this was because India was actually one of the countries that the Six Star Alliance did not inform about this attack, but the Dutch did have more troops down here than India, so they actually are going to get really far into this territory. China starts a major offensive into this Purple Team country. Even though this call-out did happen, China still had tons of troops on this border. So did the Purple Team, but just the Purple Team's numbers aren't as big as China's. They will hold their own up in this capital region, but everywhere else, pretty much, they're just getting demolished by China. The Greeks are also going to make an invasion into Yugoslavia, cutting off a lot of these areas inside of their colonial gains inside of Africa, as well as down here. But in this central region right here is where Yugoslavia is going to make their first move into a Greek territory. Because we actually see Yugoslavia invading into this country right here, getting actually pretty far, and even cutting off some supply lines, which is going to lead to a pushback by Yugoslavian forces. The Blue Iberians are also going to start an invasion into this Indonesian territory. It's not going to get super far because, well, they're actually more focusing on Greece. Because they're actually going to get really far into Greece, connecting up with this front line over here that they've made inside of Yugoslavia, encircling some towns and people over here, and they get, well, taken over and sent to prison. Then connecting up with this is going to cut off some supply lines, and that is going to lead to a pushback by the Yugoslavians. Pretty big pushback as well, but the blue team is mainly focused on Greece, and, well, the African front is actually going to be pretty good, especially down over here as, well, the Italians and the Dutch are actually going to almost completely wipe out this colony right here in a move that looks something like this. This is one of the quickest fronts to fall in the war, but this is not only a quick front. This isn't the only quick front, as the Star Team actually manages to fully take over Madagascar from Indonesia, with the Dutch getting down here and Italy getting these top regions up over here and these islands. At the moment right now, I would definitely say the Six Star Alliance is winning. Although the Star Alliance does have some good fronts, I would definitely say the Six Stars are winning. And actually, very soon, we see the first stalemate in the war coming up, and it's actually happening right now. This stalemate comes actually very quickly after the war, as everyone's kind of used their really main troops, not main ones, but a lot of their troops very early. But during this great stalemate, something major is going to happen that is going to lead to another alliance joining in on this war. Over in Vietnam, there are some groups who kind of want independence. I'll color them all in right now. All these areas over here kind of want their independence, and someone may be helping them. Now, of course, Vietnam is in the Circle Alliance. So these rebels are already facing off against the Circle Alliance. But not only that, Vietnam has just figured out that Indonesia is supporting these rebels. How did they find this out? Well, they find this out by, they win one of the battles inside of this war. And when they go to retrieve the bodies, well, not retrieve them, but look at the bodies, they find Indonesian equipment on them. And the Circle Alliance is going to take this as a act of war. And so the Circle Alliance is going to go ahead and declare war on the Six Star Alliance. But because the Circle Alliance wants to regain their lost territories and reform their lost empires, they're also going to declare war on the Star Alliance. New fronts have just opened up, and this is going to be felt very quickly. Over here in the Polish front, we actually see Russian troops invading into Poland, kind of as an act of revenge because, if you remember, Poland declared their independence from Russia quite a while ago. I think it was in World War I. That was over 200 years ago. Poland had pretty much all of their forces over here inside of the Dutch front, and this left really no room over here, and they are paying greatly for this. Not only that, as Norway is going to be making an invasion into Sweden, starting, a long war that Norway has been wanting to start for a long time, retaking some of these lands that Sweden kind of stole from them in the recent kind of civil war they had, changing their government into a monarchy, a dictatorship, and also this country declaring independence. With Poland having to pull troops back, the Dutch are able to reconnect with some of these tribes over here in towns, while also pushing back the Polish in a major offensive, reaching back up with their border a little bit, but it's not going to go as well as they hoped. Anatolia is also going to push back against the Greeks all the way back to Constantinople in this area. That offensive went very well for Anatolia. And you see, Iraq is in the Circle Alliance, but there's nowhere to really expand. So they're going to make a very, 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 very big mistake. That is just Iraq has just invaded into Cyprus. Cyprus did not... They actually thought they were on good terms with Iraq, which they were, but Iraq wants to restore their lost empire, where they conquered over pretty much all of the Middle East. Cyprus troops are going to actually get there very quickly, quicker than Iraq expected, and actually push them back quite a bit, but not fully yet. Over here inside of this area, we see the cracks start opening inside of this empire. As rebels inside the south over here, a very populated region, kind of pop up. This is kind of like Pakistan, or if you remember this country, I think I called this Iran. With this is kind of going to shift the Central Asian Union's forces away from Africa, where they have been. This is going to lead to this front falling through, and all these territories are going to go over to Indonesia. Indonesia is also going to make an invasion into Vietnam and take over these areas along over here, even reaching down and taking over this little panhandle right here. Let's go check up on the Chinese front line, don't we? Well, China has just taken over all of this Purple China very quickly in this war. And that was because, the Purple Team, although being a successor of the old Chinese Empire, they still weren't that strong, and this new Chinese thingy wants to retake their empire, and now they have a front line with Vietnam. They're going to go over to Vietnam and say nom 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 to this land over here, because this is very delicious. They're actually going to get pretty far, encircling a lot of troops over here, and very soon taking them all over before a defensive line of Vietnamese troops meet the border. And this war is not going good for Vietnam so far. Over here in Australia, we actually see blue team forces cross over the line and actually start an invasion into this Indonesian colony inside of Australia. This is actually going to go really good, mate. This is going to go really good, mate. The same thing will happen with the Dutch as they also cross over. Indonesia kind of forgot to fortify these lands over here, and so did the Europeans until they realized about this front line, and they are going to use it to their advantage. Over in the Americas, a breakthrough is made because, well, the red team is in the 6-star lines, as we see a massive invasion into the Wales colony over here inside of South America, blasting through these areas. Wales is shocked by how strong this army is. It is a lot stronger than they once thought it to be, and this red Italian country is now sending out boats to go up over to Europe and cause a bunch of trouble. Over here, if you remember, the Italians were very mad that they got cut off from colonizing, so they are going to focus a lot of troops over here in taking back these areas. Well, not taking back, but taking over these areas that they did not get to colonize, but they wanted. They're going to reach over and touch up with this California Gulf or whatever it is. But this is all they'll be able to take for now, as the American front line is actually going to go into a stalemate. Not until the Dutch is actually going to start an invasion over here. The Dutch is actually going to take over all of these northern areas up over here, and this is a big blow to Indonesia mainly. Well, not mainly. Big blow to Indonesia. And you want to know something very rude? China and the Dutch aren't going to fight each other. They actually view each other with great respect, and they're actually going to violate the treaties of both of their alliances, so that way they don't really have to fight each other. Anyways, over here, if you remember, the Lime team did join a separate alliance than the other two, so that way they can retake their old empire that they lost. Well, they're not going to invade into these two countries. In fact, they're actually going to invade into France and absolutely destroy the French armies in the process. The Lime team has been waiting forever to retake all these lands they once had and to make kind of a French empire, because really the blue team is France, but the Lime team is just southern France. They're also going to push out greatly, because if you remember, these areas used to be a part of the Lime team. These areas got annexed by the red team back in World War I. They were never given back until now, as we see the Limes making an invasion over here and taking back a lot of valuable land for the Italians. If you couldn't tell, these Europeans kind of forgot about the Lime team as they make a great invasion into the Dutch, kind of wanting to retake back this puppet state, which they don't annex. They want to make this a new state inside of Europe. They think that the brown team is kind of hogging Europe and not letting it be full potential. Over here, the Farmers Union is going to do very well against Romania, smashing them, very, very greatly. And the Greeks are also going to move into Romania, but this is also going to come at a cost, because Yugoslavia is going to fully push back their front line over here, and this is a disaster for the Greeks, because the capital of the Farmers Union just got taken over by Yugoslavia, and Yugoslavia is showing that they have hands and they are willing to throw them. They're also going to make an invasion into Romania at the same time. So, bye-bye. But Ukraine is actually going to make a big invasion into Russia, completely surrounding their border, and they just want to hold out in these lands because they do not want to be a part of Russia again. That will completely just crush their souls if they become a part of the Russian kingdom again. The Russo-Polish front is actually going to go very well for Poland, as they almost completely push back the Russians, but not fully, and this pushback is going to come at a cost, as the Dutch are able to fully push back, well, not fully, but almost fully push back against the Polish front and start a major invasion into Poland, only getting these areas and a little bit down here before a lot of the rest of this goes into a halt. Italy is also able to push back this front over here, but bad stuff is going to happen for Italy. Mainly Italy, but a little bit of Poland as well, as Slovenia is going to rebel away from both of these nations, actually taking the Mediterranean Sea access from Poland. And they're just going to chill right here, fighting off any invasions they face against Poland or the Italians. Over inside of the colonies of Africa, Slovenia is able to fully push back the Greeks in their colonies and turn this into, well, an opposite race. Because Yugoslavia is showing the world mainly, and Greece, that they should not mess around with them, because they are actually a very strong country. Greece was not expecting this at all from Yugoslavia, even though Yugoslavia is on the top 10 rankings. If you forgot about this front line over here, let me update you. A lot of these new areas that Iraq just took are now underneath the Cyprusinians' control. That is not the only bad thing, as Israel makes an invasion into Iraq, crushing their economy, actually. This is not good for the Iraq economy, and it's going to turn even worse as Babylon is also, and, well, pretty much all their neighbors are about to invade them. Babylon is going to make an invasion in, trying to take over the rest of these areas. Kuwait is going to invade into these areas, taking these areas over very quickly, as well as, well, Babylon. Babylon is going to go up a little bit more before they stop, as they don't really want much land right now. And over here in Iran, well, we just see a complete overrun. If you remember, Iran is planning something, and that planning something is going to go through right about now. As we see Iranese or Persian troops cross the border and start an invasion into the Central Asian Union. Now, if you're confused about this, I get it, because, well, Iran is in the Central Asian Union's economic alliance, right? Indeed, they are. But the thing is, they have been working with this rebellion group right here to form a union and turn this whole thing into the Persian Union. They want to unite Persia and, well, rule the world underneath that one flag. And so they have disguised themselves as an ally of the Central Asian Union to go ahead and get on their good side. This invasion is going to completely destroy the Central Asian Union. The red team is going to make an invasion into the Central Asian Union, but that is about all they'll be able to get, as this whole thing is just about to collapse. As you can see, all of these areas have are now a completely different color, because this whole union was built on stabilizing Central Europe, and the leader of this country has just went against the rule, mainly on colonizing, which he previously said he would not do. And now with this whole Persian Union thing, it's going to fall out the window of this union. Over inside of India, India has been gaining land against the Dutch, but it's only a little bit as well. India has spent pretty much a lot of their money in doing this, and they're about to collapse. That too, and they're also kind of on conscription. Already in this war, they're on conscription, and this is not going to sit well with their people. But over here inside of Korea, we do see this whole northern part up here falling over to the fascist Koreans. As well, they take over all of West Korea. And finally, they breach the city gates, and all of Korea is now underneath a fascist flag. Over in Vietnam, a very bad thing happens. The rebels have been very good at fighting, and they have taken over pretty much all of Vietnam. Vietnam is going to make the right decision to surrender over to the rebels, to not really just go away. And a front line inside of Southeast Asia has just fallen, and now it's over. Over in Iraq, well, it's over, as the Iraq Empire, the whole empire, is over, as Iraq, the leader, and most of the citizens, actually, are assassinated and killed in some of the worst ways possible. But we have a new front opening up, as Israel is going to make an invasion into the colonies over here inside of Indonesia and Greece, actually. The reason they do this is to, well, expand their territory because, well, Israel is sought out on kind of doing the same thing Cyprus is doing and kind of uniting the Middle East. But also, they don't really love colonialism. They can't really stop it, but they don't love it. They mainly don't love it because, well, the colonizers are pretty much down over here. But although it is two colonizers pretty much against each other, Israel is going to go ahead and go up with the one that they disliked most. And the reason for that is so they can get more land out of it. Greece has been a very important country in this war. But that whole important country is about to fall out the window, as this whole area down here just declared their independence. This country is going to be the first sovereign African nation. They are done with the ways of the Greek country. They are done being colonized. They want to be a free state inside of this world. With that, this whole African front line is going to fall through over to Yugoslavia. The Greeks are fully pushed out of Turkey. They also even get pushed out of Romania. If you remember this country a year ago, as Albania declares their independence, taking over more areas than they actually used to occupy, the Greek state is falling apart, as the original Greek country is going to rise up and take over these areas over here, while a newer Greek state is going to take control of these areas up here and push the Golden Greeks down over here until the Golden Greeks are going to go ahead and surrender over, and the war has officially ended over here inside of the Baltics. Well, not the Baltics, but in Greece. Although Anatolia is going to violate some stuff and invade into Crete and taking over all of the Aegean Sea islands. Well, if you remember, Yugoslavia did just take over this capital right here, and this leads to, I think, the second time in history, the Farmers Union collapses. All these areas are going to go back over to Romania, while Romania is actually going to make a pretty big invasion into the Farmers Union country right here, retaking back a lot of land. I don't know if this was their original land over here, but we're going to say if it is. Another breakthrough just happened, as the Lime team is going to fully take over France. That front line is going to lead to a movement over here in which the Lime team is actually going to stop fighting these guys and send them a peace treaty to just end it here. And they don't want to, but they're going to sign both of these countries and, well, everyone over here. All the Star Alliance, every single Star Alliance, pretty much all alliances. The Lime team officially exits this war, and all the troops over here are going to get moved over to this Polish front line, and that front line will go amazing for the Dutch, as they are actually going to get very far into these countries. Up over in Scandinavia, we see Sweden take back all of these areas that Norway invaded into. They failed to actually invade into Norway, but the leaders of Sweden and Norway actually meet up on this front line. And over the next few days, we actually see Norway invading into this country that actually broke away from them, but that's not it, as Swedish troops are going to occupy the rest. Over here in Poland, the Polish leader is going to organize a lot of their troops for a final pushback against the Russians, and which goes successfully. They organize even more troops, and a major push into the Brown team is made, getting very far. But when they try to push back the Dutch over here, it goes terrible. And the Dutch has just realized Poland has ran out of troops. We see a very quick, take back of this territory over here. We then see a massive push into the Polish state. A massive push, but before they could fully take back this, destroy Poland, a very bad thing is going to happen for the Italian country. In secret, Red Team forces make a landing over here inside of their old capital, and they completely split Italy in half. That is not before taking both of these islands. But during all this, Italy has been, well, the old Italian country has been working to make their way back over here, and it is finally successful. Italian troops were over here in this Polish front line. There's no one down here to protect against the Italian country. As we see red Italian troops, or the old Italian troops, go up and take the capital of the Italian team. If you remember this country from another person's Wixo, maybe someone called Adas Pro, this area down here is going to declare independence under a new name and a new flag. And the Italian team is going to go ahead and surrender over to the red team. This war is not going good for pretty much either side. In this stage, we see a bunch of countries leave this war. First, let me erase all of the countries that are pretty much dead. This being, well, not fully taken over, the Farmers Union, Greece, Iraq over here in the Middle East, Central Asian Union. I can also say that their economic alliance is also just don't worry about that. It's over there as well. The Purple Chinese country, Vietnam, the Lime team, the Italian team, Ukraine is going to go ahead and leave the war, sending all these lands back over to Russia. And if most surprising at all, Wales leaves the war. You might be saying, why? Why did Wales leave? Well, I did not say this, but Wales just it has a new leader. Their new leader, well, their new king, is very, very against colonialism. They want to end all colonizing in the world. And so not only do they leave this war, they leave the Star Alliance in all. And in the next few episodes, we could expect to see them releasing their colonies all over the world. But let's go ahead and look at the updated Australian front because big stuff has changed. Here's what it looks like, and you may be confused on what this area is. China has went against their own teammates back and invaded into their own territory. That is how you know you can never trust a Chinese. In this universe, not in real life. Over in the Indian front, same thing happens as well. Hasn't just happened. Over the last long time, like throughout everything that I've been talking about, the Dutch has been destroying India in this war, and it's over. These colonies over here are going to fall over to the Dutch team. And now if we erase all the countries that have left the war, China has left the war. And you see something, there are only 2 3-star alliance members left and 2 circle members left. Which, well, the alliance may or may not be going away. Norway does leave this war. They have gotten land, and they actually have restored some pretty good relations with Sweden. We also need to count that the red team has left the war. And if you remember me saying, Poland has used up all of their troops. With that, we see the Duchy of Warsaw, if you remember this, it was kind of a recent country, declare their independence, and, Poland is falling apart. For all the Polish viewers, you guys should probably turn this off, because this is going to be very graphic for you guys to see, as well, the Dutch start an invasion from the west, while the Russians begin their invasion from the east, and Poland is officially falling apart. Once Poland falls apart, these are what the front lines look like, and Russia is going to actually make a massive invasion into the Farmers Union to retake back some of these lands that they lost inside of the First World War, but they're not going to get all of it because, they're actually going to give the rest of this over to Yugoslavia. And we actually see a handshaken treaty between the one circle member and the Star Alliance who stop fighting and, not totally stop fighting, but to focus on the last member needed to end the war, and that is Indonesia. For months, these guys are going to try to make a landing inside of the Indonesian soil, but it's not going to work. But something's going to happen that is going to rise that opportunity. All these areas over here that were owned by the Italian team are not really theirs anymore. If I turn on provinces, there are a few inside of the Americas, and this is to represent a state, well, a new country that is known as California. What I'm getting at is these Californian areas are going to go ahead and declare their independence away from Indonesia, saying they can run a country better than them. All these areas are going to fall over to them, and even, well, these areas that were invaded by the Italian team, but the Italian team is kind of not really good right now. Also, if you want to look at all the provinces, I have updated some of the Middle East. I'm working on the Middle East, and, well, yeah, it's slowly being updated. The rest of these areas are going to get occupied by the brown team, and, well, the American front line is over. After that happens, really, Indonesia falls apart. We see this major island right here, which I do not know the name of, but really should know the name of, go ahead and break away. This island is also going to go ahead and get this like little panhandle up over here, actually going all the way up into here. These islands down here are going to go ahead and consider themselves a sovereign nation away from Indonesia. The Dutch are going to make a landing up in Papua New Guinea, taking over these islands over here. And I forgot to color these islands in a long time ago, so just act like these islands are a part of the Dutch now. Dutch is going to get pretty far into Papua New Guinea, but then it stops. As we see a new teal-blue rebellion pop up, taking over these little islands right here. And this is officially the end of the Indonesian Empire. The rebels that Indonesia supported are going to kind of betray them. Well, not kind of, but betray them and take over the rest of these areas over here. And we see this Cyan nation up over there, take over the Philippines. And this is, well, all they get involved in inside of World War II. The Dutch will also seize the southern Japanese Isle over here. And while Indonesia collapses, I'm not going to fully color them in because, well, they will be divided up in a special way. Over here, they reach an agreement to give back those lands. But there is one more thing I need to talk about. The Indonesian colonies in this video. These areas are going to be undecisive yet. What I mean by that is, well, although all these areas are really no longer underneath a government, they are going to get divided up, and some of them may even become their own separate countries. And that is the end of World War II. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. The peace treaty will be in the next episode to cover all of these separate peace treaties in the world. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye. And today's daily shoutout is going to be going to Mr. Duck VR. He makes some good virtual reality content. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.